Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at a legal battle that went on for a full decade, all hinging on one, seemingly simple question, but with a super complicated answer.
So this whole explainer follows this really strange case. A BMW dealership gets four of its stolen cars back, and you'd think, great, case closed, but nope. Turns out their real financial loss was just getting started. It's a story that really makes you question, when does a loss actually become a loss? All right, so let's set the scene. It's early 2014, and we're talking about Pan-German Motors, a huge BMW dealer over in Taiwan. And let me tell you, they're about to get a masterclass in the difference between owning something and actually controlling it. So get this, four brand new cars. We're talking a 7 Series, a 5 Series, they just disappear. But Pan German is on it, and they track them down super quick. Like by January 17th, 2014, they found them in a used car dealer's warehouse. End of story, right? Wrong. The police show up, and the other guys, Shenyi Motors, they just refuse to hand them over. They say, nope, we bought these legally. So right there, this stops being a simple recovery and turns into the start of a massive multi-year legal headache. I mean, can you believe it? Pan German, the actual owner, had to file a lawsuit just to get their own cars back. Just let that sink in for a second. For more than 2 years, from early 2014 all the way to February 2016, these beautiful cars were just sitting, collecting dust in a warehouse, losing value every single day while the courts did their thing. Okay, so fast forward, they finally get the cars back on February 26, 2016. But now they have another problem. These are technically 2-year-old cars now. They're not new anymore. So of course, when they sell them a couple months later, they take a massive hit. A huge loss. But now they have a hard number. They know exactly how much money they lost. So what do? They turn around and sue the folks responsible for the whole mess. But the defendants came back with a pretty clever defense. They brought up this really important legal rule in Taiwan called the statute of limitations. And what it basically says is, hey, you've only got a 2-year window to sue somebody, and that clock starts ticking the second you know you've been wronged and you know who did it. And this is the crux of the whole thing. The multi-million-dollar question, when did that 2-year clock actually start ticking? The defendants were like, easy. It started on January 17th, 2014, the day you found the cars. You knew you were harmed then. But Pan German's argument was totally different. They said, hold on, we didn't know the actual damage, the real dollar amount, until we sold those cars at a loss in 2016. That's when the clock should start. So what did the first court say? Well, they actually sided with the defendants. On April 30, 2020, the district court basically said, yeah, you knew you were harmed back in 2014. It doesn't matter that you didn't have the exact number. And just like that, Pan German's case was thrown out. They lost. It looked like it was all over. But wait, you didn't think it would be that simple, did you? This legal roller coaster was just getting to the top of the first big drop. Pan German wasn't giving up. They appealed, taking it to the high court. And this is where we get the first huge twist in the story. And boom, a total reversal. The high court completely flips the script and sides with the dealership. Their logic was really interesting. They said, look, even though Pan German knew its cars were missing, the financial damage itself was still up in the air. It wasn't a hard number. It only became a real calculated loss when they sold the cars. So the court ruled the 2-year clock started in 2016, not 2014. So just like that, the tables are completely turned. It looks like the case is finally done. Pan German is about to get their 2.6 million NT dollars back. It feels like, common sense won the day. But it still wasn't over. The other side appealed again, taking it all the way to the top, the Supreme Court. And this is where it gets really fascinating. The Supreme Court didn't just come back with a simple yes or no. They saw a chance to tackle a much bigger, more profound legal question that would basically redefine the whole argument. Right, so what the Supreme Court did was introduce this really important legal idea that made everyone take a step back and think about what damage even means in a case like this. The concept is called pure economic loss. The court made a really smart distinction. They said, look, there's physical damage, a dent, a scratch, a car crash, we get that. But then there's this other thing, pure economic loss. This has nothing to do with physical harm. It's a loss that happens entirely on a balance sheet. Think about the value of something dropping over time just because you're blocked from selling it. And that right there was exactly the kind of damage Pan German was dealing with. And this is where the Supreme Court's logic is just kind of brilliant. They brought in this idea they called damage materialization. The thinking goes like this. For a purely financial loss, something that's always changing and isn't certain, the damage isn't really, well, real until it stops being a maybe and becomes a solid concrete number you can point to. For these cars, when did that happen? The moment they were sold. That's when the damage materialized, and that is when the 2-year clock should have started. So, now armed with this super clear principle from the highest court, the case gets sent back down to the high court for one last look. And this time, it's going to stick. And so, finally, on August 1st, 2024, a full 10 years after this whole thing started, the Supreme Court delivers the final word. They backed the High Court's decision, they backed the new legal logic, and they awarded Pan-German Motors their money. Almost 2.7 million new Taiwan dollars in damages. And when you actually look at the numbers, you can see just how much that 2-year delay cost them. I mean, look at that new 7 Series. It lost over 1.7 million NT dollars in value all by itself. The court had to go through car by car and calculate the exact difference between its value back in 2014 and what they could get for it in 2016. It's a huge hit. So really, the big takeaway from all this is that the law now makes a very clear distinction between, say, immediate physical harm and a financial loss that kind of happens over time. For these less tangible kinds of harm, like depreciation, the clock doesn't start ticking when the bad thing happens. It starts when the financial hit becomes real and measurable. So this whole 10-year legal roller coaster really leaves us with this one fascinating question, right? When something goes wrong, does the clock start ticking at the moment of the act or when you get the final invoice? And this case proves that sometimes, in the eyes of the law, the real damage doesn't show up until you see that final bill.